Secretary Buttigieg, thanks so much for stopping by our studio and taking some time to talk with me about a lot of important projects happening here in northern Michigan, but also a lot of things that are impacting people beyond northern Michigan. And one of the big issues recently is your department just announced an investigation into Delta Airlines over some flight disruptions caused by a global IT outage. So that investigation was announced earlier this week. Where does that stand today?
So we're investigating really two sets of issues that Delta had. One, how could there have been this many cancellations in the first place? And two, what were they doing to take care of customers? Because we heard so many stories, including from friends and neighbors here in Traverse City, about people who were waiting hours in a line with 100 people just to talk to one customer service agent, or hours on the phone. And when there is a disruption, airlines are required to take care of passengers who need vouchers, they need rebooking, and it's clear that there was a breakdown there. So the good news is, as of now, Delta appears to have their flight operations back to normal, but they canceled more than 6,000 flights. We got thousands of complaints just since last Friday over this, and we need a better sense of why it is that when all of the other airlines that were affected really got back in their feet within a day or two, Delta took the better part of a week to get back to normal, stranding so many people in so many incredibly frustrating circumstances in the meantime. Part of what we do is we use our enforcement powers to make sure airlines take better care of their customers. And I can't yet say where this investigation will end, but what I will say is we're going to look at everything we can do to support passengers who were impacted.
And going up to that, what will the Department of Transportation do to make sure something like this doesn't happen again?
Well, airlines are responsible for meeting a high standard that we set for customer service. And in the case of Southwest, for example, we wound up setting a record in terms of a tough penalty that sent a message, not just in terms of a lot of the penalty going back in the form of vouchers to passengers, but that they needed to do more to make sure this couldn't happen again. That is a possible outcome of this investigation. But again, I don't want to speak too soon to how the investigation will end. We're going to gather a lot of evidence, including going through all of those customer complaints, making sure the passengers were individually taken care of, and making sure that informs our decision about what to do next.
Do you know how many customer complaints there were?
We received thousands. Last time I checked, I think it was more than 4,000 just over Delta and just since Friday, which is, I can't remember us getting that many complaints about one airline since there were those problems with Southwest about a year and a half ago.
And then kind of moving closer to home here, you're going to be going on a Great Lakes ports tour coming up soon. So what is the goal of this tour and where will you be going?
Well, we're really trying to highlight the importance of the Great Lakes ports. I think a lot of Americans know about the ports in LA and Long Beach, where I just was, by the way, or New York, New Jersey, Baltimore. And of course, those are very important ports, but so are the ports here in the Great Lakes. Individually, they may be smaller, but collectively, they are a big deal. And we are making investments to improve many of these ports. So I'm going to visit Menominee, just at the base of the UP. Then we'll be in Manitowoc on the Wisconsin side, and also be sitting down with community members in Milwaukee, understanding their port operations. And it's part of a bigger push where we are investing our federal funds out of the Department of Transportation to help ports upgrade and expand. We're funding improvements in Alpena, about $3.75 million for a very important port there. Also on the UP, we're investing in the port in Marquette and continuing to look at opportunities. Monroe is another example in Michigan over on the Lake Erie side, where all of those add together into the kinds of supply chains that our economy really needs.
And one major infrastructure project happening here in northern Michigan is a new Soo Lock. It's expected to be done in 2030, but there have been some concerns flying around about funding. So do you know, is there enough committed funding to make this project happen?
Well, I know that this project couldn't be done without federal funding, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has put together, I believe, $693 million to make that project a success. They have more details than I do because that's separate from the Department of Transportation, but we often work closely with the Army Corps on many issues, and I know that they have been engaged in making sure that project stays on track.
And are there other infrastructure or road projects here in northern Michigan that you want to talk about?
Yeah, there are. One I'm very excited about is pretty close to where we are sitting, M72 from Cherry Bend Road to that intersection with 22, which if you've ever, actually it's funny, just a few days ago, I found myself trying to make a right turn off of Bay Street and then a left onto 72. That is no fun if you get stuck there. We are funding the Michigan Department of Transportation to fix all of that. They're going to upgrade the road, they're going to replace that intersection, and it's going to make for a much better and, most importantly of all, safer design.
Safer for not just people in vehicles, but also pedestrians and cyclists?
That's right. Matter of fact, last year I participated in a triathlon in Frankfurt, and a lot of my training was riding a bike up on 72 and onto the TART Trail downtown. And so I've seen for myself how some of those intersections can be a real challenge if you're on foot, a bike, a wheelchair, and also a real issue for cars and trucks. This new design is going to make a big difference, which is part of why it won a very competitive process to get the grant funding that we announced recently.
Anything else you want to talk about projects happening here in northern Michigan?
Just that we're continuing to invest here in northern Michigan and really across the state. There are so many deserving projects, from a major bridge in Bay City that we're working on, to work in Detroit, to things right here in and around Traverse City. And I'm excited to see more of those myself during this tour that we have coming up, and just really a believer in the economic potential of the Great Lakes and in the importance of supporting smaller communities with grant dollars that maybe aren't going to make national headlines, but mean everything to communities like the community where now Chasten and I and our kids live, which is Traverse City.
Thanks so much, Secretary, for joining us today and for talking with me about all these important issues and projects. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Great to be with you.